He didn't scream threes. He didn't cry threes. He didn't say a single word for 70 years. But when he growled, people ran threes. This is not a legend threes. This is a true story that breaks every rule we thought we understood about humanity communication and the cost of silence threes. Deep in the forgotten hills of rural West Virginia lives a man known not for what he says, but for what he doesn't threes. His name is Silas Wren, and he's been called the most inbred man in America still alive threes. But behind that viral headline is a human story so raw, so haunting, and so painfully real, it forces us to ask what makes someone human when they cannot speak. This is the story the internet twisted, but now we tell it as it was meant to be told threes. Watch to the end, because once you see him, you'll never forget the man who never spoke threes. He didn't scream threes. He didn't cry threes. He didn't say a single word for 70 years, but when he growled, people ran threes. His name is Silas Wren, and he is more than a viral mystery threes. He is a man who has never read, never written, never spoken his name out loud, and yet his silence echoes louder than most voices ever could threes. Locals in rural West Virginia whisper about him like he's part legend, part warning threes. They say he walks alone, eyes wide open, never blinking, never smiling, reacting only when threatened threes. But behind those reactions is something deeper, a story that the internet labelled the most inbred man in America, a title that went viral but barely scratched the truth. Threes. What lives behind those eyes is not just biology, not just trauma, but a raw, undeniable presence. Threes. And to understand that presence, we must first understand the place that built it, the hills, the bloodline, and the silence that shaped him threes. He didn't scream threes. He didn't cry threes. He didn't say a single word for 70 years. But when he growled, people ran threes. His name is Silas Wren, and while most of the world has never heard his voice, they felt the weight of his silence threes. In the shadowy hollers of rural West Virginia, he's not spoken once, not a whisper, not a name, not even a sound of pain threes. He doesn't write threes. He doesn't read threes. He doesn't call out threes. Yet somehow, when he's near, people freeze threes. Locals don't talk about him in casual conversation. They warn about him like an old myth, still walking the dirt roads threes. You'll hear him before you see him, they say threes. And if he stares at you, threes, threes, threes. Don't move threes. Silas doesn't live like the rest of us threes. He moves with an animal stillness, eyes wide and unblinking, his limbs tense like he's constantly on edge, ready to run or ready to attack threes. They call him the man who never spoke, but what they don't understand is Silas has never needed words threes. His presence alone has haunted generations, and the internet only caught a glimpse threes. Viral clips can't explain him threes. Rumours don't do him justice threes. To understand who or what Silas Wren really is, we have to go back threes. Not just to his childhood threes, but to the bloodline that built the silence threes. He doesn't wave threes. He doesn't speak threes. He doesn't smile threes. But when Silas Wren locks eyes with you, it's like the forest stops breathing threes. He walks the same narrow paths through the Appalachian hills day after day, year after year. Like a machine built from muscle memory and something the rest of us lost long ago. Threes, he doesn't respond to greetings. Threes, he doesn't look when called threes. He doesn't even seem to recognize his own name. Threes, his body is tense, hunched slightly forward as if pulled by some invisible weight that only he can feel. Threes, locals say he snarls if you get too close threes. He'll bark not words but a deep guttural sound that doesn't just warn, it unsettles threes. Silas doesn't move like a man threes. He moves like instinct given form threes. Watch him long enough and you'll see a pattern, but not one you can explain threes. He might pause at a tree stump crouch, grunt once, then continue walking threes. He may stop mid-step and stare into the woods like he's hearing something you can't threes. Some say he's stuck in time threes. Others say time learned to leave him alone threes. But one thing is certain. Silas Wren doesn't just pass by, he haunts threes. And the way he moves like a ticking clock with no sound is only the beginning of what makes his presence so impossible to ignore threes. Because if you follow the way he moves, you'll start to notice something else. He's not wandering. Threes, threes, threes. He's remembering threes. If a man can't speak, can't write, can't call for help, or say his own name, does he still count as human? It's a question that lingers in the silence around Silas Wren. Threes. For 70 years he has existed on the edge of language, untouched by conversation, immune to social cues, incapable of verbal response threes. But in that silence, in that deep and often misunderstood absence of words, something else rises. Presence threes. Silas doesn't express himself like the rest of us. Threes. He reacts, he withdraws, he growls, he stares. But those aren't accidents. Threes. They are answers. Threes. He exists in a bandwidth most people never tune into threes. And so we ask again, if he doesn't speak our language, does that make him less? Or are we simply too impatient to learn his in a society obsessed with voice statements, comments, captions? Silas is a living contradiction, a man who says nothing yet, whose silence has gone viral. Threes. We scroll past noise all day, but we stop for him. Threes. Not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't. Threes. So what defines humanity? Is it grammar or grief, syntax or survival, a voice box or a heartbeat? Silas Wren doesn't give us answers. Threes. He is the question. Threes. And to chase that question deeper, we have to follow the only trail he's ever left behind, a legacy of silence that speaks louder than any scream as fuzz. He doesn't live in a hospital threes. He doesn't live in a care facility. Threes. He lives in a collapsing house buried in the hills of odd West Virginia, a place as forgotten as the man inside it. Threes. Silas Wren isn't monitored by specialists or tracked by any system. Threes says. He is watched only by his siblings, silent sentinels shaped by the same bloodline that built the cage he was born into. Threes. There are no ramps, no nurses, no rules. Threes. Just dust, routine, and a man whose world is smaller than a single county line. Threes. But inside that world, something extraordinary happened. Something no viral headline ever mentioned. Threes. It wasn't filmed threes. It wasn't staged threes. It was real threes. Because one day, for the first time in decades, Silas didn't growl threes. He didn't flinch threes. He didn't run threes. He reached out his hand threes. And what happened next wasn't just unexpected, it changed the way we see him forever. Threes. To understand how that moment shattered the rhythm of silence we need to step into a scene no one thought they'd ever witness. Threes. Not a scream. Threes. Not a sentence. Threes. Just an open hand and a broken pattern. Threes. Hidden deep in the woods of odd West Virginia, there's a house that looks like it's holding its breath. Threes. The roof slouches like tired shoulders. Threes. The porch sags under years of silence. Threes. Its windows cracked, clouded. Don't look out at the world. They hide from it. Threes. This is where Silas Wren lives, not alone, but with a handful of siblings who never left. Threes. No doctors. Threes. No nurses. Threes. No authorities. Threes. Just family threes. They don't give interviews. Threes. They don't ask for help. Threes. They don't open the door unless they already know your name, and Silas never says any names. Threes. Inside that house, the world is different. Threes. Time slows. Threes. Language disappears. Threes. Everything runs on habit memory and blood. Threes. They eat together in silence. Threes. They dress him without words. Threes. They watch over him with a quiet loyalty that's as unsettling as it is unshakable. Threes. There are no calendars on the walls, no clocks ticking, only routines passed down like rituals. Threes. Silas has never left this life, not because he can't, but because no one ever built him a way out. Threes. The same people who shield him from the world are also the ones who sealed him inside it. Threes. And that sealed world is exactly where something strange, almost impossible, was about to happen. Threes. Something no one expected from a man who had never changed his rhythm until the moment he did. Threes. It happened on a day no one was paying attention. Threes. A quiet afternoon at the odd county fair, families eating fried food, kids screaming on rusted rides, music crackling from cheap speakers. Threes. And in the middle of it all, Silas Wren stood near the edge of the parking lot, half in shadow, watching. Threes. He wasn't supposed to be there. Threes. He almost never leaves the house. Threes. But that day one of his siblings had brought him, maybe out of necessity, maybe by mistake. Threes. Silas wasn't leashed. Threes. He wasn't guarded. Threes. He just stood there, stiff, alert, unreadable. Threes. A man walked past a stranger, arms full of popcorn and soda, not noticing Silas until they were almost shoulder to shoulder. Threes. And in that instant, the whole world seemed to hold its breath. Threes. Silas didn't growl. Threes. He didn't bolt. Threes. He didn't flinch. Threes. He raised his hand. Threes. Palm open. Threes. No force. Threes. No fear. Threes. Just a gesture. Threes. Simple. Threes. Unscripted. Threes. Impossible. Threes. The man paused, stunned. Threes. People nearby turned. Threes. Phones stayed in pockets. This wasn't loud enough to go viral. Threes. But it was loud enough for anyone paying attention to feel it. Something ancient breaking. Threes. Not a habit. Threes. A wall. Threes. In that one motion, Silas didn't just reach out. Threes. He rewrote everything we thought we knew about him. Threes. And what followed, quiet as it was, shook the silence at its core. Threes. Silas Wren doesn't respond to noise. Threes. He recoils from it. Threes. Crowds, loud voices, sudden movements, they don't just confuse him, they repel him. Threes. If someone approaches too fast, too direct, he growls. Threes. If they reach out without warning, he backs away or barks sharply, not out of malice, but instinct. Threes. But here's what most people miss when you lower your volume, when you slow your steps, when you simply exist near him without trying to force connection. Silas notices. Threes. He won't speak. Threes. He won't smile. Threes. But he'll look. Threes. Really look. Threes. And that gaze isn't empty. Threes. It's focused, measured, almost ancient. Threes. His presence is reactive, not performative. Threes. He doesn't seek approval, but he recognizes respect. Threes. He mirrors energy, not behavior. Threes. And if you give him space, not just physically, but emotionally, he might hold your stare longer than you expect. Threes. It's not submission. Threes. It's not trust. Threes. It's something quieter, stranger permission. Threes. In that stillness, there's a pulse of understanding. Threes. Not verbal, not social, but real. Threes. Like some unspoken agreement between two beings with nothing to prove. Threes. And in a world obsessed with being heard, Silas reminds us that being witnessed, truly, wordlessly witnessed, is sometimes the loudest language of all. Threes. But to decode that language, we must look beyond habit, beyond etiquette, and into something deeper. The silence. He was born into threes, and the bloodline that built it, threes. To understand Silas Wren, you can't just observe his silence, you have to trace the silence back to its source, threes. Because what surrounds him isn't just mystery threes, it's inheritance threes. His story wasn't born from trauma or accident, it was built layer by layer over generations, threes. A bloodline that never branched out, only folded inward. Threes. What happens when your family tree loops instead of grows? When names repeat and faces blur because genetics stopped mixing long ago? Silas is not a medical mystery, he is a living consequence, threes. And the further you look into his past, the more chilling the design becomes, threes. This wasn't just misfortune, threes. It was structure, threes. Repetition, threes. Choice, threes. And the silence that defines him today began long before he ever took his first breath, threes. So to understand the present, we must open the door to the past and examine the family that shaped his reality long before he ever had the chance to shape his own threes. Because inside that legacy is the locked room where language died and instinct took over, threes. And what we find there might not only explain Silas, it might explain the parts of ourselves we'd rather not confront, threes. The story of Silas Wren didn't begin with him. It began generations ago in a family tree that doesn't branch, but coils, threes. His parents were first cousins, threes. His grandparents, identical twin brothers who married sisters, threes. His great-grandparents, also cousins, threes. Again and again the same blood met itself in a mirror, threes. It wasn't just one accident, threes. It was a pattern, threes. A loop, threes. A design, threes. Over decades, this closed circuit of DNA became a trap, repeating the same genetic code until nature had no more room to adapt, threes. This isn't folklore, threes. It's biology, threes. It's how rare recessive genes, normally silent, became dominant, unlocked, and multiplied. Threes. Facial asymmetries, threes. Neurological gaps, threes. Developmental delays, threes. None of these came from a single choice, but from a system of choices made over and over in silence, threes. The Wren family didn't break rules, threes. They ignored them, threes. Isolated deep in rural Appalachia, they lived like the world outside didn't exist, and for a long time it didn't, threes. But nature doesn't forget, threes. Eventually it collects the debt, threes. And that debt was born in the form of Silas, a man shaped not by trauma alone, but by inheritance so tight it had no room to breathe, threes. What's terrifying isn't just the science, it's how easily this could be hidden, threes, repeated, threes, passed down, threes. Because when a family erases the outside world, the danger isn't just ignorance, it's legacy, threes. And Silas Wren is what that legacy looks like. When it finally wakes up, threes. Repeated inbreeding didn't just tangle the Wren family tree, it unleashed hidden genetic time bombs, threes. When the same flawed DNA circles back generation after generation, rare recessive genes, usually silent, become dominant, triggering a cascade of devastating effects, threes. What would have been harmless mutations in a diverse gene pool became unavoidable curses in this closed loop, threes. The consequences, severe developmental delays that robbed Silas of basic communication skills, threes. Neurological defects that warped brain function and perception, threes. Physical anomalies that set him apart from everyone else, threes. It's not just a medical mystery, it's a biological trap with no easy escape, threes. And with no access to proper healthcare or intervention, these genetic storms raged unchecked, isolating Silas deeper in his silent world, threes. The cruel reality is that his condition, likely severe nonverbal autism, was compounded not only by genetics, but by systemic neglect, absence of therapy, and complete social isolation, threes. It's a perfect storm of biology and abandonment, leaving Silas trapped inside a body and mind that don't speak his truth, threes. This isn't just a story of inherited flaws. It's a stark warning about what happens when nature's safety nets fail, and human lives fall through the cracks of history, science, and society. Threes. Silas Wren was never evaluated by doctors, never stepped foot in a classroom, never received a diagnosis. Threes. In a world obsessed with labels and treatments, he remained invisible, locked away in a life without intervention or understanding this. His family, isolated and struggling, themselves became his sole caretakers, nurturing him in silence without access to medical help or education that could have changed his fate, threes. They fed him, clothed him, sheltered him. But the world beyond their cramped, aging home never reached them, threes. This absence of care wasn't just neglect. It was a systemic failure, a harsh reminder of how rural America's forgotten can slip through the cracks. Threes. Without therapy or schooling, Silas's condition, likely severe nonverbal autism, deepened the divide between him and society, threes. The gap grew wider, fueled by isolation and misunderstanding, leaving him trapped not only in his body, but in a reality no one tried to change, threes. This is more than a story of survival. It's a chilling portrait of abandonment and the dangers of being unseen, threes. As silence enveloped him, the walls closed in tighter, setting the stage for a moment that would challenge everything we thought we knew this. A viral video captured Silas Wren's raw reality, a silent man growling and limping through the hills of West Virginia, sparking millions of views and intense debates online, threes. Was this exposure a form of help or cruel exploitation? People donated, speculated and argued, but Silas remained unaware, untouched by the digital frenzy surrounding him, threes. This sudden spotlight didn't give him a voice. It turned his silence into a spectacle, threes. Behind every view and comment lies a question. Are we truly seeing Silas, or just the viral myth? As his story spreads, the line between awareness and voyeurism blurs, setting the stage for the most critical chapter. Yet where silence confronts the world's judgment, threes. A shocking video surfaced online showing Silas Wren growling and limping through the wooded hills of West Virginia, quickly going viral with the headline, "America's Most Inbred Man Still Alive, threes." The footage was raw, unfiltered and unsettling, capturing a man caught between worlds, forgotten by society yet exposed to millions, threes. The viral clip sparked waves of reactions, curiosity, disgust, pity and outrage, threes. But beneath the surface of clicks and comments lay a brutal truth. This was not entertainment nor a sideshow, but a real human being whose existence challenges our understanding of dignity and humanity, threes. The video shattered comforting illusions, forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable questions about genetics, neglect, and the ethics of exposure, threes. Silas became a symbol not of pity, but of a haunting legacy, raising the stakes for how society treats its most vulnerable, threes. And as millions watched, Silas remained unaware, his silence louder than ever, setting the stage for the deepest story still to unfold, threes. A video of Silas Wren quickly exploded online, amassing millions of views within days, threes. It sparked intense emotions, shock, sympathy, fascination, but also fierce controversy. Threes. People debated whether this sudden fame was a form of help or a cruel exploitation of a man who couldn't consent or even comprehend what was happening this. Silas himself remained completely unaware, untouched by the viral storm swirling around his silent life. Threes, his face, his growls, his limp became a spectacle for strangers worldwide. Yet the man at the centre had no idea he was being watched, judged, and dissected. Threes. This unintended notoriety exposed the raw truth about society's hunger for viral stories, often at the expense of the vulnerable threes. It forced millions to question, are we truly seeing Silas, or just our own reflection in his silence? And as the digital frenzy grew, Silas's quiet world shrank even further into isolation. Threes. The viral footage of Silas Wren ignited a fierce ethical debate online. Was filming him a genuine act of awareness or a callous exploitation? Donations poured in, but skepticism loomed. Did the money truly reach Silas, or was it swallowed by an unseen system? Many questioned if the story was a heartfelt plea for help, or merely another viral spectacle feeding society's appetite for voyeurism. Threes. The line between compassion and cruelty blurred as critics accused content creators of reducing Silas to a digital sideshow. Threes. This controversy forced millions to confront uncomfortable truths about internet culture and the way vulnerable lives are commodified. Threes. It shattered illusions of altruism, revealing a harsher reality that sometimes in seeking to help, we unknowingly deepen isolation. Threes. As Silas's silence echoed louder, society grappled with its own complicity in turning pain into entertainment, exposing not just a man's story, but a collective moral crisis. Threes. Silas Wren has no voice in the digital storm surrounding him. Threes. He owns no phone, understands nothing of videos or viral fame, and cannot consent to his life being broadcast worldwide. Threes. He cannot protest, cannot approve, cannot even comprehend the invasion of his privacy. Threes. Yet millions watch, comment and judge. Threes. Silas is seen, but never truly seen. Watched, but never able to watch back. Threes. This one-sided gaze creates a chilling power imbalance where the subject is stripped of agency, reduced to a silent spectacle for strangers' consumption. Threes. The harsh reality is that Silas lives in a world where his silence is exploited, his humanity overlooked. Threes. As viewers, we become voyeurs in a story he cannot tell, forced to question if our fascination crosses the line from awareness into cruelty. Threes. This silence, once a refuge, has become a cage, exposing the dark side of viral culture and society's failure to protect its most vulnerable. Threes. Silas Wren's story quickly morphed from that of a living, breathing man into an internet phenomenon, a viral spectacle distilled into pixels and headlines. Threes. As millions clicked, shared, and scrolled past his image, the real Silas faded into the background, overshadowed by the sensationalism surrounding him. Threes. He became a symbol without a voice, a face without consent, an icon of suffering reduced to digital entertainment. Threes. The humanity beneath the viral footage was lost in the endless churn of content consumption, leaving behind only fragments of a man people thought they understood. Threes. This transformation exposes a brutal truth about viral culture. It elevates the spectacle while silencing the subject. It says, Silas isn't just a viral story, he's a mirror reflecting society's tendency to commodify pain and overlook dignity. Threes. As his image dims behind countless clicks, the question remains, did we watch to help or simply to witness his erasure? Silas Wren remains unaware of his viral fame. He continues his quiet existence untouched by the millions who have seen his silence broadcast worldwide threes. Yet in his stillness lies a profound resilience, an unspoken rebellion against a world that watches but never understands threes. His presence defies our need for noise, proving that sometimes the loudest voices are those without words, threes. As the digital frenzy fades, what lingers is a haunting question: can we truly recognize humanity beyond speech and spectacle? To answer that, we must look deeper beyond the screen, beyond the clicks, into the silent story still unfolding. Threes. Silas Wren remains untouched by the viral storm that swirled around his life. Threes. He walks the same worn paths through the hills every day, unaware that millions have watched his silence from thousands of miles away. Threes. His reactions remain instinctual growls to warn stillness, to observe flinches, to protect. But none of it is for an audience threes. Silas doesn't know he's famous. He doesn't know what fame means threes. The world has turned his life into a spectacle, but he continues to live in his quiet reality, unaffected and undistracted. Threes. This lingering contrast leaves a haunting echo, a man erased by his own silence, watched but never truly seen. Threes. The viral buzz fades, but the question remains: how often do we mistake noise for understanding, spectacle for empathy? Silas's story is a chilling reminder that sometimes the deepest impact isn't heard or seen, it's felt in the long dark silence left behind to thieves. Silas, Wren's mere existence is an act of silent rebellion. Thrace. Without uttering a single word or seeking permission, he refuses to be erased or forgotten threes. In a world obsessed with noise, he stands as a quiet monument to endurance and invisibility threes. His presence defies society's attempts to hide what it fears or cannot understand threes. Each step he takes, each breath he draws, pushes back against the relentless tide of neglect and erasure threes. Silas doesn't need to speak to fight for his place. His life itself challenges us to reconsider what it means to be seen, to be human. Threes. This defiance lingers long after the viral clips fade, haunting our collective conscience threes. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about visibility, dignity, and the unspoken battles waged by those society overlooks. Threes. Silas's story is a haunting reminder that resistance often comes not through noise, but through the stubborn refusal to disappear. Fake Silas Wren lives without complaint, without expectation, and without seeking pity his. He does not ask for sympathy or mercy, he simply continues to exist on his own terms. In a world quick to judge and slow to understand, Silas's quiet persistence is a radical act of self-preservation threes. He endures the isolation, the silence, and the invisibility, not because he wants to be noticed, but because survival itself is his quiet rebellion threes. There is no performance, no plea, only the steady, unyielding presence of a man who refuses to be erased threes. This refusal leaves a haunting echo, challenging us to rethink compassion beyond words and gestures threes. Silas's story lingers in the mind long after the screen fades to black, a powerful testament to dignity born from resilience, not from the need for others' approval or pity. Though Silas Wren never speaks a word, his story is told in the quiet language of a bowed head, a measured step, a furrowed brow threes. Each gesture, subtle and unspoken, carries more weight than any sentence could convey. Threes. His silence is not emptiness, it's a profound narrative of survival, pain and resistance threes. In a world drowning in noise, Silas communicates with a depth that challenges our very understanding of connection threes. We don't hear his voice, but we feel his presence loud and clear. 3s. His unspoken message lingers long after the video ends, haunting our thoughts and compelling us to listen differently. 3s. Silas's story reminds us that sometimes the deepest truths are not shouted, but lived quietly in the spaces between words where empathy must learn to speak. 3s. Can we truly recognize a human being when they cannot speak our language, when their voice is silence? This haunting question lingers long after Silas Wren's story fades from the screen. 3s. In a society obsessed with words and noise, are we willing to accept silence as enough? Does humanity demand spoken language, or can presence alone define existence? Silas challenges every assumption, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about empathy, connection, and recognition. 3s. His silence is not absence. It is a powerful statement, a mirror reflecting our limitations. 3s. As the digital world moves on, his quiet defiance remains, urging us to listen beyond words and to see beyond appearances. 3s. The final question echoes, can we honor the humanity in silence, or are we doomed to overlook the voices that don't speak? Silas Wren's story forces us to rethink what it truly means to be heard and seen. 3s. It challenges us to find empathy beyond words and to recognize the quiet battles fought by those society often overlooks. 3s. If this story moved you, if it made you question how we define humanity, don't let it fade away. Comment below your thoughts. How do you interpret silence as a form of communication? Save this video to revisit when you need a reminder about unseen strength, and subscribe now to join a community that values deep, meaningful stories. Your engagement helps spread awareness and compassion. So take action now and be part of a movement that listens to the unheard. 3s.